Now the headlines of the news. Education Minister has urged 13-member committee to review KG to primary curriculum inauguration. Foreign Affairs Ministry has assured support for Ghanaians facing deportation from the U.S. Land Minister has directed Goldfields to vacate Damang site as government takes control. Department of Justice, DOJ, has sued Maine over transgender girls in girls' sports. Bam Bam has praised Uzo Arike's acting. Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we are back, I would give you the details of these stories and more.
Admission, admission, admission. Are you looking for a computer institution with a serene atmosphere in equipping you with the ability to deepen your understanding and in-depth knowledge in computerization? Then the answer is Big Family Multimedia Institute. Our dedicated and experienced teachers are ready to provide personal attention, support, and help you bring your fusion to bear. We are located at Amasama Dobrogono, Upper Class Junction, and Santa Maria Family and Friend. For more information, contact 0555 20 80 56 0540 932 188. Website bfmnetworks.com. Email info@bfmnetwork.com. Other affiliates include Center for Trade, Big Family TV, Big Family News, Big Family Radio, Big Family Event, Big Family Multimedia Institute, KabaraInfo.com, Trustees, Okman Motors, Soko Mall, ABK TV Ghana. Enroll now and experience the difference.
You are all that matters.
You are welcome back. My name is Esther Kusiagbobli. Now, the details of the story. A 13-member steering committee to undertake a review of the curriculum for kindergarten, KG, to Basic 6 has been inaugurated. The committee, which is made up of experienced individuals familiar with the education system in the country, is chaired by Professor Amina Plummer. Other members are Mamle Andrews, Chief Director, Ministry of Education, Professor George K.T. Odro, Technical Advisor to the Minister of Education, Professor Yaira Zakazi, Director General, National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, Director General, Ghana Education Service, GES, Professor Azeko Salifu Tahiru, Inspector of Schools, and Professor Christian Adai Poku, Registrar, National Teaching Council. The rest are Dr. Eric Azori, Director General, Ghana TVET Service, Nana Balfour Ewa, Director of Pre-Tertiary Education, Ministry of Education, Rejoice Dankwa, Director, Technical, Vocational Education and Training, Ministry of Education, Isa Shezu, Director, Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ministry of Education, Mavis Asari Donko, Director General, Administration, and Dr. Samuel Ewuku, an Education and Development Consultant. The Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, who inaugurated the committee, said education held the key to future successes of the country, and if we get it right in the education, we will get it right as a country. He explained that the decision to embark on the review and revision of the curriculum was not only a technical exercise or a routine update, but a visionary step towards preparing children for the real world of work that was rapidly evolving and changing, increasingly interconnected and full of challenges and opportunities. It is my considered view that the exercise that you are going to undertake will result in the production of ethical and responsible leaders for our country.
Knowing and teaching our true history with pride. Anyone who abandons his past and history loses his way to the future, I'm told. This is why we must mention how we teach our children about Ghana's rich and complex history. So I'm at a loss that at 68 years we are still grappling with who are the founders of Ghana and who is the founding leader of Ghana or who is the founding father of Ghana. This must be a settled matter. In every country, there are its founding fathers. It's reasonable to conclude that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah Osajefo is a founding leader of Ghana. But if at this age, you still want children to be asking fathers and mothers questions, who is the founder of Ghana, who are the founders of Ghana, then there is a problem. At 68 years, you shouldn't be asking who birthed you as a country. So I'm sure many of you growing up, including those who are even instigating this debate, were themselves students of history. I'm sure whether you have read Professor Bois or Professor Albert Aduboahin or Professor Baku or Professor Kokoyo Dote or Professor Robert Adufin and others and other anthropological writers. So your review of curricula must end this matter so that children are not growing up. And those of you who are academics, we are not. I'm the politician this afternoon. I'm not sure any of you has a better literature that can go and substitute when you say self-government now and self-government in the possible future. If any of you has a better literature or narrative which is historical, you are free to share it with us. So you must also bring some of these matters to a necessary end. I don't want Ghanaian children to grow up not knowing who its founding fathers are or who its foundational leader was. And I expect that your review will bring the debate settled on this particular matter. That is not to say that I recognize what the other contributions of other founding fathers were in our independence struggle, but place each of them where they historically belong with them.
Away from that story, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has assured the public of its commitment to ensuring the safe return, reintegration, and reunification of Ghanaians facing deportation from the United States. This assurance comes in the wake of intensified immigration enforcement under the Trump administration, during which U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) has arrested over 3,500 undocumented immigrants since President Donald Trump assumed office on January 20th. Deportation flights have resumed, with some migrants reportedly transported via U.S. military aircrafts. Addressing a press briefing in Accra ahead of the launch of ECOWAS at 50, Minister for Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa noted that while no major updates had been received from Ghana's embassy in Washington, the government was actively working behind the scenes to support affected individuals. For humanitarian and human rights reasons, we have decided not to publicize details of the returnees, he stated. When they arrive, our team receives them, supports their reintegration, and helps reunite them with their families. We are also collaborating with other partners discreetly to protect their dignity and avoid unnecessary media exposure. The minister reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to upholding the rights and well-being of its citizens abroad, particularly in situations involving forced return.
Brief from our Foreign Service officials in Washington has not changed. We are still looking at roughly at about 160 Ghanaians on the deportation list. That number has not increased, and the deportation. We decided on humanitarian and human rights grounds not to publicize the deportation. So when they arrive, our team welcomes them. We help them with integration and returning to their families. And we're working with other partners, NADMO, the Ministry of Interior, the IOM, and we are doing all of them quietly because it's important to respect the dignity of our fellow compatriots and not to subject them to media coverage and publicity that will injure their reputation and their ability to integrate, find work, and get their lives back. So that is going on, and we can provide updates anytime we want that.
Moving on, the Minister for Lands, Emmanuel Amakufibua, has issued a directive to Goldfields to vacate the Daman mining site as he lent his support to the Minerals Commission's decision. The Commission has taken decisive action to assume operational control of the Daman mines following the expiration of Goldfields' 30-year lease, which is set to end on April 18th. This decision comes after the unsuccessful renewal application by AGL, a subsidiary of Goldfields Limited, which has not been actively mining since 2023. Speaking to the press on Wednesday, the minister emphasized that the government is ready to take full responsibility for the mine's operation. He reassured workers that all existing jobs will be safeguarded and no one will lose their job. The government of Ghana is committed to enforcing trade protocols to ensure safety, orderly operations, and the protection of all assets. Unauthorized assets or disruptions will not be tolerated. Together, we will uphold the integrity of this transaction. No employee will lose their job. There will be continuity, protection, and security for all workers. We are committed to ensuring that all processes are transparent, he assured.
And the Minerals Commission has taken a decisive step to assume operational control of the Daman mine of Abosu Goldfields Limited, AGL, upon the expiration of the 30-year lease due on 18th of April 2025. This follows the unsuccessful renewal application by AGL, a subsidiary of Goldfields Limited, which had halted active mining since 2023. AGL shifted to stockpile processing in 2024, indicating plans to continue this into 2025, with the remaining life of the mine estimated by AGL at 1 year. The Daman mine's return to state oversight marks a critical step in Ghana's economic reset, ensuring its gold reserves directly benefit citizens and fuel long-term prosperity. The government of Ghana is committed to enforcing strict protocols to ensure safety, orderly operations, and the protection of all assets. And let it be noted, unauthorized access or disruptions will not be tolerated. Together, we will uphold the integrity of this transition, that everything we are doing here is in the interest of the workers. And I've emphasized in this, though no employee at Daman will lose his job. There will be continuity, there will be protection, there will be security for all workers, for service contractors. Every contract in place will be honored. And we are going to make sure that processes will be very transparent. The government of Ghana, as you know, passed the local content law, and it was the people of Ghana were at the forefront of this effort to empower Ghanaians and to make sure that Ghanaians are in the forefront of the mining industry.
Moving on to other stories. Minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has called on President John Mahama to take urgent steps to restore peace in Boko, citing growing insecurity in the area. Speaking at a press briefing after the New Patriotic Party's NPP National Executive Committee NEC meeting on Wednesday, April 16th, he said, "I will plead with President Mahama to do all he can to ensure the peace in Boko. The situation is getting out of hand." He added, "They inherited a peaceful country. They must keep it peaceful. What is happening in Boko, where security personnel don't feel safe, is not the best for our country." Mr. Afenyo-Markin also raised concerns about what he described as the harassment of political opponents, especially members of the NPP and former government officials. He added, "The MPs are now being harassed by expressing their views on governance issues. We urge government to demonstrate tolerance. After all, when they were in opposition, they were at liberty to raise a number of issues." Referring to a recent incident, he stated, "The recent event at the residence of Reverend Intim Fojo leaves so much to be desired. Very unfortunate. In any event, they could have used due process of the law to invite him." He further urged the government to focus on governance and the welfare of citizens. Government must focus on the issues of governance, creating jobs, and helping better the lives of the people, he said.
We are also urging upon government to do all it can to ensure the peace. They inherited a peaceful country. They must keep it peaceful. What is happening in Boko, where security personnel don't feel safe, is not the best for our country. Second, we are also concerned about the persecution and the harassment of political opponents, particularly our party members and former appointees. MPs are now being harassed by expressing their views on governance issues. We urge government to demonstrate tolerance. After all, when they were in opposition, they were at liberty to raise a number of issues. The recent event at the residence of Reverend Ntim Fojo leaves so much to be desired. Very unfortunate. In any event, they could have used due process of law to, invite him. And then the final point, government must focus on issues of governance, creating jobs, and helping better the lives of the people. We are still aware that a lot more are being dismissed from various state institutions that are even very independent and are limited liability companies, and whose...
Moving away from that story, the Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party, NPP, Richard Ahiagba, has disclosed that the party will not release the findings of its election defeat report to the public. He said the party will look for alternatives to make the supporters aware of the findings of the report without necessarily releasing the report to the public. According to him, the report is only an internal document meant to reform the party and shape its preparations for the 2028 election. He made this known after the 12-member committee chaired by Professor Aaron Maikwe presented the report to the party's leadership in Accra on Wednesday, April 16, 2025. It is an internal document that will guide the party's reform process and help position us for victory in 2028. So while it may not have been explicitly stated, it is clearly implied that the document is not meant for the public consumption. He added, there are ways our supporters will be made aware of the key issues without the report being officially released to the public. Mr. Ahiagba emphasized that the party's actions and strategy in the run-up to the next election will be significantly influenced by the recommendations made in the report.
Is that report going to be made public?
I don't think so. Turn out that to aid the party's reform process and position as for the So I can guarantee you, even though it's not expressly stated, it is implied that that document cannot be a public document.
But we know that the MPP is a political party. You deal with numbers. Your supporters would like to know really what happened.
Well, there's a way our supporters will go about that in public. So it's a working document. It's a document that the party is going to work to. Most of the recommendations there will be key in what we do now till election 2028.
It's 4 now, getting to 5. How long should we wait till we hear something from the party?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of conversations going on there, and I'm very sure that in a matter of time now, it shouldn't be too long. We've been here since morning, I should say. So maybe in a matter of hours, we should be wrapping up. And I think that the General Secretary, supported by the National Chairman, would give a press conference immediately after the discussion.
You can watch us and follow us live on Facebook at Big Family Radio. You can also follow us on Instagram at Big Family Radio, YouTube and TikTok, Big Family Radio and Big Family TV. You can also read more of these stories on bigfamilyonline.com. Now let's do some international news. On Tuesday, Senator Chuck Grassley encountered a group of constituents who directly challenged him to intervene in the case of Kilma Armando Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador the previous month. These constituents urged Senator Grassley to leverage his position and influence to ensure the safe and expedited return of Mr. Garcia to the United States. The confrontation underscores the growing concern and public pressure surrounding this case of wrongful deportation.
Are you going to bring that guy back from El Salvador? Yeah. Why not?
Well, because that's not a power of Congress.
Supreme Court said to bring him back.
Yeah, but
What can they do?
He's defined the Constitution.
Trump don't care.
If I get an order to pay a ticket for $1,200 and I just say no, does that stand up? Because he's got an order from the Supreme Court and he's just said no.
Yeah.
the president of that country is not subject to our U.S. Supreme Court.
If Trump wanted to bring him back, bring him back. I'm pissed.
Still on international news. In a recent exclusive interview, Senator Chris Van Hollen disclosed critical information regarding the case of Kilma Abrego Garcia, who was mistakenly deported. According to Senator Van Hollen, the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador has confirmed that they have received no communication or requests from the Trump administration to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia to the United States. This revelation casts doubt on claims that efforts are underway to rectify the erroneous deportation.
Well, my goal is to keep a spotlight on this issue until justice is done, until the 9-0 opinion by the Supreme Court is implemented by the Trump administration, which is ignoring entirely that order that they need to facilitate his return. I asked the folks at the embassy whether they'd been ordered by the administration to do anything to facilitate his return. The answer was no, so they're clearly not in compliance.
I just want to underscore what you just said there, that you were told by the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador that they have received no request from the White House or from the Justice Department, from any other entity in Washington, asking them to take any steps to obtain the release of Mr. Abrego Garcia. Presumably, it's the local U.S. officials at the embassy there who would be the relevant point of contact, first point of contact for the U.S. government trying to attain that outcome, correct?
Well, that's exactly right. And it is pretty clear that the Trump administration has not lifted a finger to implement that court order. And so I think it's important that the courts know that, and they...
Away from that story, New York City Mayor Eric Adams recently engaged in a comprehensive discussion with Jose Diaz-Balart, focusing primarily on his upcoming campaign for re-election as the city's chief executive. A significant portion of the interview was dedicated to Mayor Adams' strategic decision to run as an independent candidate in this election cycle, a move that represents a departure from his past alignment with a traditional established political party. He elaborated on the specific factors and motivations that led him to adopt this independent stance, providing insight into his vision for the city and his approach to governance moving forward.
Yeah, and Mayor, all of this comes as you're running for re-election, skipping the Democratic primary, running as an independent. There's a history of independents winning New York City mayor races. Lindsay in '65, Bloomberg in 2009. Why do you think this is the better route for you to take?
Well, it's clear that these bogus charges that were levied against me did not allow me the proper time to do all of the technical aspects of running in the Democratic primary. We collected over 25,000 signatures to run in that primary. I was looking forward to doing so, but this case went on for so long, and it overshadowed the success of this city. Those who do a proper, unbiased analysis see we have more jobs in the city's history. Crime has decreased this last quarter. We saw the lowest number of shooters in the recorded history of the city, safe on our subways. Unemployment has dropped. We build more affordable housing. All of those things that I should have been able to share with the public. It didn't give me the opportunity to do so because we were overshadowed by this really unfortunate, bogus case that was brought against me. Now I have an opportunity to do so until November and share to New Yorkers how we turned the city around for working class people. I'm looking forward to doing so in the process, and this is the democratic process. I'm still a Democrat.
Moving on. After a town hall event in Ackworth, Georgia, on Tuesday, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene was pressed by reporters about stock purchases she made just before and on the same day that President Trump announced a pause on tariffs, an announcement that subsequently boosted the previously declining stock market. Reporters questioned the timing of these transactions, implying potential insider knowledge. In response, Representative Greene denied having any prior knowledge of the tariff pause or having discussed it with her stock portfolio manager before the public announcement. She maintained that her investment decisions were made without any privileged or non-public information.
There's been a lot of coverage on stocks buys that you made in the days before and the day of the announcement that these tariffs were being paused. Was there anything that you knew ahead of time? Can you at least respond to the criticism that's been published?
You know, I think that criticism is laughable. President Trump has been talking about tariffs for decades. President Trump announced April 2nd is when he was putting tariffs in place. I have a fiduciary agreement with my portfolio manager. I don't place my buys and sells. That's something that the portfolio manager does for me, and he did a great job. Guess what he did? He bought the dip, and that's what anybody that has any financial sense does when they know the market's going to be going down. That was obvious to everyone, and President Trump had announced tariffs long before. That wasn't anything, that wasn't a secret. Big public information.
Can you just confirm, and thanks for taking our questions.
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Can you just confirm that you didn't have prior knowledge of the pause, President Trump's pause on tariffs, and that you didn't have any conversations with your portfolio manager about that?
Oh yeah, no conversations whatsoever. And President Trump, I think he's done a wonderful job with how he's been handling tariffs. What we did know is he was starting them on April 2nd. That was announced for the whole world to know. And so I think he's doing a great job negotiating for America.
Moving on. California Governor Gavin Newsom and the state's Attorney General have initiated legal action against the Trump administration, challenging the imposition of what they describe as sweeping tariffs. At a press conference held to announce the lawsuits, Governor Newsom directly addressed the United States Congress, expressing his frustration and demanding action. Newsom stated, "Where the heck is Congress? Where the heck is Speaker Johnson? Do your job," indicating his belief that Congress has a responsibility to intervene and check the authority of the executive branch regarding these tariffs. His remarks suggest a perception of congressional inaction or unwillingness to address what he views as an overreach of power by the Trump administration.
Well, how can you not be? I've got 4 kids. 80% of their toys under their Christmas tree come from China. I've got family members living paycheck to paycheck. Many family members. My mom, who passed away years and years ago, was one of them. I mean, no rationale, no plan, no conscience to what it's doing to real people, no consideration of congressional responsibility. Where the hell is Congress? Where the hell is Speaker Johnson? Do your job. They're sitting there passively as this guy wrecks the economy in the United States of America, which has dominated the global economy. Don't take my word for it. The Wall Street Journal We are the envy to the world, and overnight a wrecking ball to America's reputation, our role, and our relationship. And so I'm angry as a parent, as a taxpayer, as someone who has a retirement account that didn't come from wealth, no trust family, worked hard in life, who has businesses. I know I have blind trust, and I trust you can appreciate that I won't try to cross the line on that. But as someone who's built a business that also is export dependent, some of them, industries like ag that I'm involved in, I have a unique understanding. It's not an academic understanding of the stress that folks are going through. And so it connects on every level. And so I'm angry about this.
Still on international news, newly released search warrants reveal that the individual accused of setting fire to Pennsylvania's executive mansion in the early hours of Sunday contacted emergency services 911 after the incident. According to reports from Nicole Wallace of MSNBC, the man's call to 911 suggested that his actions were motivated, at least in part, by his dissatisfaction with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's stance on ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The contents of the search warrant suggest investigators are exploring a potential connection between the arson and the man's political views on this sensitive international issue.
Nothing he could do would deter me from doing my job as governor. Nothing he could do would deter me from proudly and openly practicing my faith. I told you that day that I was going to be heading to our second Seder, and we did. We had a beautiful Seder together. And I continue to find strength in my faith as we go forward here.
That was Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro earlier today, speaking out about Sunday's arson attack at the governor's mansion. The attack was just hours after Governor Shapiro and his family hosted a Seder dinner and wished his followers on social media on Saturday a happy Passover. According to newly released search warrants, the suspect...
Moving on, David Hogg, a vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, recently appeared on Simone Sanders Townsend's show to discuss his newly unveiled plans for Leaders We Deserve, an organization he founded. Hogg explained that the organization intends to support primary challenges against certain incumbent Democratic politicians. He articulated the reason behind this strategy, stating, "We have to show our base how we are changing and how we are meeting in this moment to fight back, because we are losing our young people too." Hogg's remarks suggest a concern that the Democratic Party needs to demonstrate a commitment to progress and responsiveness to the needs of younger voters, implying that some current Democratic leaders may not be adequately representing those values or addressing the challenges faced by that demographic. By supporting primary challenges, Hogg aims to encourage a more dynamic and representative leadership within the Democratic Party.
There are great older people in our party that are leading the fight against Donald Trump and have been doing so for nearly a decade at this point, like Congresswoman Pelosi. We also have people, obviously, like Jan Schakowsky and so many others that are meeting this moment. But the reality is, we know that only 27% of our base is approving of where we are right now as a party. And we lost voting shares with every single demographic except predominantly older voters and highly educated voters. That is a huge problem. And what we're trying to do here is not just focus on primaries where there's potentially an older incumbent, but more than anything, an ineffective person in that position and replace them with a generational leader to build the future of our party. We're also focusing on competitive races to support the Democrat in those races.
Competitive general election races.
Yes, but we're not going to challenge the Democratic incumbent in those races. We do not want to lose the House here, but we want to help make sure that we win back the House. I even had a friend which is part of the reason why I'm doing this, who called me from college a few weeks ago that said, David, I am so mad that my member voted a certain way and they're a Democrat. I want to primary them. And I said, whoa, who is your member? And I looked it up and it was a Democrat in a D+3 seat. And I said, I understand your frustration here, but what you need to understand as well is we may lose the House if you run here. So let me help figure out what you can run for, because there is a growing movement of that happening across our party. And I do not want that to happen. But we have to show our base how we are changing and how we are meeting in this moment to fight back, because we're losing our young people too. They're losing faith in democracy. And
they are definitely losing faith in democracy.
Is showing them how we're.
Still on international news, the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, has formally filed a civil rights lawsuit against the Maine Department of Education, escalating a contentious debate over the inclusion of transgender students in school sports. The core of the Department of Justice's complaint centers on Maine's existing policies, which permit transgender girls to participate in athletic activities within school programs specifically designated for female students. The Department of Justice argues that these inclusive policies constitute a violation of federal law, asserting that they undermine or contradict established federal civil rights protections designed to ensure fairness and equal opportunity in educational settings. The lawsuit effectively challenges the legality of Maine's approach to transgender student athletes and raises broader questions about the interpretation and application of federal civil rights laws in the context of transgender rights.
Today, the Department of Justice is announcing a civil lawsuit against the Maine Department of Education. The state of Maine is discriminating against women by failing to protect women in women's sports. Pretty basic stuff. This is a violation of Title IX. The Department of Justice will not sit by when women are discriminated against in sports. This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety. I've met many of these women throughout the past weeks and months, and what they have been through is horrific. We have exhausted every other remedy. We tried to get Maine to comply. We don't like standing up here and filing lawsuits. We want to get states to comply with us. That's what this is about. We have repeatedly notified Maine of its infractions and urged them to remedy the situation to protect women. We've stripped grants from Maine through other departments, and we are going to continue to fight for women.
Before we move to the entertainment news, let me read some comments. Papa Balazio, watching you from Takwa. Thank you, JM. National Service. Thank you, JM. National Service Alawa just hit my Ghana pay this Easter. Greetings to my boss, Mighty Shamaba of Tadi. Kofi Ajuman Blackman, you're also watching from Pig Farm. Thank you. And Ejata, thank you for watching. So now let's go into the world of entertainment. Former reality TV star and now accomplished actress Bam Bam has publicly lauded the on-screen professionalism of her colleague, Uzo Aruke, emphasizing his dedication and serious approach to his acting career. During a recent interview with Cool FM, Bam Bam shared her positive experiences collaborating with Uzo on their joint movie project, Love in Every Word. Love in Every Word. She specifically commended Uzo's meticulous attention to detail and his unwavering commitment to delivering a high-quality performance. Bam Bam further conveyed that working alongside Uzo was both effortlessly and thoroughly enjoyable, highlighting his ability to bring a distinctive and captivating element to their shared scenes. She stated, Uzo is a very professional actor. He has an excellent approach towards his work. He is detail-oriented. It's such a blessing to know that there are people taking their jobs, careers, and talents seriously, and he is one of them. He made it effortless. Her remarks underscore the positive impact Uzo's professionalism had on her overall filming experience and quality of their collaborative work. Away from that story, Nigerian actor Yul Edochie, often a figure of public controversy, has stated his pursuit of becoming a native doctor is not a personal ambition, but a divinely ordained path. He argues this calling stems from a deep-seated desire to serve both God and humanity, coupled with a commitment to upholding and preserving African traditional practices. Idochi stresses that genuine native doctors, in his view, are fundamentally servants of God and should therefore abstain from any form of malevolent or harmful conduct. He acknowledges the potential for corruption in any profession, drawing a parallel to how some pastors or priests might deviate from their ethical obligations, suggesting that the same possibilities exist for those who answer the call to become native doctors. His overall message emphasizes the spiritual and benevolent nature of the calling when practiced with integrity. To win the news, the headlines again. Education Minister has urged 13-member committee to review KG to primary curriculum inauguration. Foreign Affairs Ministry has assured support for Ghanaians facing deportation from the U.S. The Land Minister has directed Goldfields to vacate Daman site as government takes control. Department of Justice, DOJ, has sued Maine over transgender girls in girls' sports. Bam Bam has praised Uzo Arike's acting. To acknowledge my sponsors, Trustees Network Group, Center for Trade, Big Family Multimedia Institute, and BFM Store. Also, a massive thank you to my producer. You can also watch us live and always follow us on Facebook at Big Family Radio. You can also follow us on Instagram at Big Family Radio, YouTube and TikTok, Big Family Radio and Big Family TV. You can read more of these stories on bigfamilyonline.com. My name is Esther Akusiagbobli, and this is News at 6 from the studios of Big Family Radio. Have a good evening.